In this brief tutorial, I'm going to demonstrate how to use the GetPivot function to quickly and efficiently automate various types of reports. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go to File, then you want to go to Options. Under the Formula options, you want to go to Use GetPivotData and ensure that that box is checked, because this allows you to actually use the GetPivot function to extract data out of your pivot table. Once you've verified that that's checked, you could go ahead and click Out. So the first major step is to ensure that you have your raw data set up by columns. So this is where you're going to put your monthly data that you extract from your system when you go to update your reports every month. So once you've set up your data table, the very next thing you want to do is you want to create a pivot table off of that same data. So that's what I've created here. I've just created a pivot table. So I used the month field as row labels, and then everything else from that table I pulled over into the values section. So, and one thing to note about the pivot table is you want to just ensure that you've actually selected your columns. Now the reason for doing that is every month when you go to update this pivot table, you don't want to have to recapture the area to capture the new data that you're going to dump in there. So my suggestion is just go ahead and select the columns, and that way once you dump the data, all you would have to do is refresh your pivot table, and then that pulls your latest and greatest data into your pivot table. So once you've created those two pieces, the last piece, or actually you could do this ahead of time, is to create the structure of your final report. This is the look and feel of how you want your report to be presented. So in this situation, I just created a pretty basic financial statement format. So what I'm going to do is, because I want to create this in a way to be dynamic, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Data, and I'm going to use the Data Validation option to create a list of months. And you'll see in a minute why that comes in handy. So I'm just going to go ahead and type this in there. Bear with me. So once that's completed, you can go ahead and click OK. So what we've created is a list of months. The very next thing we're going to do is we're going to start extracting our data from our pivot table. So you hit the equal sign and you go to the pivot table and you click the first cell that you want to extract. So we're going to tweak this formula a little bit just to make it a little more dynamic, and so the way we're going to do that is to use the text function and then reference the data that we want to pull. So what I'll do is to ensure that the column stays fixed, I'm going to put a $sign in front of that. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I want to make the formula dynamic to pull whatever month I select in this box. So we're going to pull this formula across. So what we want to do is we want to keep it fixed at the rows, and then you just hit enter. So now you can actually copy this formula to the next cell, and it automatically pulls your cost of goods sold from your pivot table, which pulls from this table. So you see how it's all linked through, which makes it very easy for reporting. So every month you just take your raw data, you dump it into that table, refresh your pivot table, and that data gets pulled into here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that formula down to the rest of my cells, and there you have it. It pulls in because it's looking at the month, and it's also looking at the heading, which matches my pivot table and also my raw data. Now the neat thing about this is every month what you can do is just copy that column, and your January data is already in there, your February data is already in there, so you would just change your months and voila, you have February's data. And then you can actually do that for as far out as you'd like. We have data in there through January, so we'll just go ahead and select March, April, May, and June. So for each month, it dynamically pulls that data in. So as you can see, it cuts down dramatically on the amount of keying that you have to do, and all your data is linked, and you just put your data in there and you refresh, and then your data pulls in. So this is a very quick and easy way to automate reporting. As you can see, with a little imagination, you can take this and you can make all kinds of dynamic reports and dashboards. I'll just give you a quick example. For instance, if I wanted to, let's say I want to create a graph, a dynamic graph, what I could do is just highlight the section I want, and there you have it. So this shows January's data. Now if I want to say, well, let me look at February's data, all I would have to do is change it to February, March. But you see what I'm doing. So you can kind of play around with it and create all kinds of neat reports that are super efficient and that are pretty easy to create. Hopefully this helped, and stay tuned for more videos to come. Thank you.